Hey guys, Base Bump here, bringing you this Season 4 Unholy Death Knight Survival Guide. I understand this is coming a bit late since we're now more than 3 weeks into the season, but it's just at this point that people have actually started to make the decisions that a guide might be useful for. Today we'll basically only cover gear, because that's the main kind of difference in Season 4 compared to Season 3. So talk about exactly what you need to equip and how your playstyle changes based on that. So Season 4 introduces the concept of a fated raid. So each week, one of Castle Nafria, Sanctum of Domination, and supports to the first ones will become fated. This means that all the bosses will scale to like previous season mythic level and a bit more. And then you also get these affixes and bosses that you need to deal with. More importantly, it means that they drop much higher eye level gear. So the end bosses will drop 311 as their base eye level, which is big upgrade. Anyway, there are 2 new currencies related to the fated raids, which helps you in your gear acquisition. So we have a quest, which is kill 30 fated bosses, and that gives you a currency called a diner. The diner can be used to buy any normal fated gear from any of the bosses, only covering trinkets, weapons, and special items like the Anduin ring. And this quest, once you complete it, comes back, but with a lower requirement. Only need you to kill 15 bosses and then 5. So in total, you'll be able to get 3 of these diners, which allows you to buy 3 fated normal items. And we obviously want to use these items to target things that we are unlucky and don't loot naturally. The priority here is rather quite simple. You should spend your first diner to get Gavel or the first Arbiter. This weapon is just insanely strong, and upgrading that, I'll get to that later, but getting it at 311 eventually is an insane upgrade. Like I used to have a heroic Gavel from Season 3. Upgrading that to the new Mythic is a 2.5k, like 2,500 DPS upgrade. It's actually insane. So you should, as your first priority, make sure you get Gavel. If you're unlucky, don't get it from Sepultura, buy it with your diner. The other 2 diners, they should generally be spent on your trinkets. And we have 2 specific ones to target there. It's Scars of Eternal Strife from Jailer and the first Sigil from Pantheon. These 2 trinkets together, when upgraded to max eye level, or when just looted at max eye level, will be your best setup. I'll talk a little bit later about how to use them exactly, but that's essentially your diner priority. Now, if you're lucky and you loot one of these items naturally, there's one more thing you can spend your diner on, and that is the Anduin ring. So Anduin ring isn't part of your normal single target best setup. However, it is incredibly strong in AoE. So if you're running any mythic class, you probably want to acquire Anduin. So if you've got an extra diner to spend, you should get the Anduin ring for that. Right, so that's all the diner priority. Let's talk about upgrading items. Because Season 4 brings a way of upgrading items from low eye level to a higher one. Every time you kill a fated boss on any difficulty, it will drop this like upgrade token. So if you kill a boss on mythic difficulty, you get a mythic upgrade token. You can combine 20 of those to get this, unused upgrade thing, which brings any fated gear piece up to the level of that token. So if you kill 20 bosses, you get 20 of these tokens, you convert it, get one of those upgrade things, and then that can be used to upgrade, for instance, an LFR fated Gavel up to mythic Gavel, right? So it's a way of taking loot from lower difficulties, or loot you get from diners, remember those are fated normal, and then instantly upgrade them to a high eye level. Just an example, this week I haven't killed 20 mythic bosses yet, but I did kill 20 fated heroic bosses, so I could buy my Gavel with a diner and then upgrade it to the fated heroic eye level, which was a like 1.5k upgrade for me, so it was huge. Anyway, the priority for upgrading items should generally be the same as with the diners. So go for your weapon first, and then try to get both your trinkets to Mythic, or whatever is the highest difficulty you play at. After that point, try and upgrade any of the tier pieces, or anything that's on a slot with a lot of eye level. So helmet, shoulders, chest, those kind of items. And do also try and upgrade the ones that go to the highest eye level. So for instance, if you get a helm from Kel'Thuzad, if you bring that to Mythic, that's going to go to 311. So that's better than upgrading a helm from something else that wouldn't go to the extra eye level for the end boss's eye level kind of thing. Alright, but as I said, it's quite simple. Go for weapon, go for trinkets, and go for high level stat pieces. And then you can always just sim this, to get the personal upgrade for you, which is something I would generally recommend. Alright, that's all I get. Let's talk about how we actually play with this, because quite a lot of these items, the weapon and the trinkets, will change how you play. Gavel of the First Arbiter, when you use that, it will spawn a little ad that you need to kill to get a 1 minute buff. Now, luckily for us, as Unholy, we can Soul Reaper that ad to also get the 4Ps, and this is a big upgrade. If you Soul Reaper the ad in your opener, it's like a 2% overall upgrade in your DPS. It is very strong. What you want to do, Gavel is a 4-minute cooldown. You want to use it with your first army and then your second army. Both times, we'll get to that. The first time you use it, it should come with your Blight. So like the normal opener is army, double Fester, Blight, use your Gavel, and then follow up with Dark Transformation, Apocalypse, Abomination Limb, and after Abomination Limb, that's when you want to Soul Reaper the Gavel ad. And we do this to get like max overlap of that 8-second 4-set buff with all our other cooldowns, yeah? We want to avoid, we want to ensure that we actually kill the Gavel ad with the Soul Reaper. This means that we will actually want to use this macro up here, which is a mouse over macro. If you swap to the ad, you risk hitting it with a melee and ruining your Soul Reaper, yeah? So what you actually want to do is use a mouse over macro, so you can eliminate the risk of actually meleeing the ad, so you do get the Gavel, the Soul Reaper buff, yeah? Second Gavel, you generally use when the boss is in execute, and in that case, you just want to kill the ad with another ability, not with your Soul Reaper. Soul Reaping at that point is kind of a waste, because you don't get explosion, which you would have gotten if you Soul Reaper the boss. Alright, that's how it works. For Mythic Plus, you just use Gavel all the time to get big AoE, big damage. Same thing there, really. For the trinkets, Scars of Eternal Strife is a bit special, and I think we need to cover this specifically. So essentially, every time you use it as a 30-second cooldown, every time you use it, you add a rune as a buff, which generally brings you a lot of stats. So it starts out with, I think it's crit, maybe, and then it gives you some verse, haste, mastery, whatever, yeah. So every time you add a rune, you get extra stats, so it ramps up over time, but it also gives them negative effects. So the first one makes you take more damage, like every damage you take comes back 3 seconds later and hits you for 10% of the amount. Next one means that you don't heal as much. There's lots of negative effects, but they're generally not too bad, except the one where you get from the 4th rune, which slows you by 20%, which is pretty awful. Now, you might think, okay, I'm just gonna make sure I have all the runes ready, all the runes up on me when we pull the boss, and I'll sit there 4 runes with lots of stats, and we're gonna deal tons of damage. Doesn't work like that. When you engage the boss, you always reset back to 1 rune. This means that whenever you are gonna, start a dungeon or engage a raid fight, make sure you actually are on 1 rune, so you don't start with 0. This is an annoying bug. Whenever you die, the runes go away, but you don't get up to 1. So make sure you just tap it once, get that 1 rune, and when the boss fights, you start with that 1 rune. Now, the usage. When you use it, it doesn't work like a normal trinket. It won't incur the internal trinket CD. So, using Scars, you can then use another trinket afterwards without issue. However, you can't do it the other way around. So, let's say you have the first sigil and Scars. If you hit the first sigil and pull, Scars will go on 20-second cooldown, which is not what you want. As soon as you pull the boss, use your Scars instantly to go to 2 runes. Next point, at 30 seconds, use scars again, go to 3, and then you go to 4 at 1 minute, and then at 1 minute 30 is when you use your 5th and final rune. What happens here is that you get a huge buff. All the stats you were given previously gets amplified by a factor of 2, and then at the end of 30-second buff duration, you explode for lots of damage. And this is kind of like as if you had a big unused trinket, so you want to make sure you time that with the other cooldowns. Luckily for us, you know, Blight, DT, and Apocalypse are on a 90-second or 45-second cooldown cycle. So the third time we use these in our fight is going to be with that first final rune. Alright, after this point, the next final rune is going to come in 2 minutes later, which is going to be at the 3.5 minute war mark, I think. Am I thinking about this wrong? Sorry. First final rune is at 1 minute 30. Next final rune is going to be at 4 minutes. That's how it ends up. And that's going to be with your second army. Make sure you use it on cooldown all the time, and then it aligns nicely. So that 90-second one is with your Blight, TT, Apoc. And then 4 minute, it's going to be with army, it's going to be with your Abomination Loam, it's going to be with all the other cooldowns. So you kind of line up at that point. And that's how you use it generally. If you have the first sigil, it's going to be quite nice because sigil is a 5-minute cooldown, so you're not going to have any issues at the 4-minute mark. But if you use something like the stun grenade, you're going to be tricky to align them properly at the 4-minute mark. Generally, since you have a 30-second duration on the first sigil final rune, use that first because that does incur the internal trinket cooldown, and then use your stun grenade so to get like 10 seconds of double trinket overlap. I know that was a bit rambling, but to bring it all down in a nice tidy manner, start the fight on 1 rune, use scars immediately, use it on cooldown so you get the final rune at 90 seconds and 4 minutes, and that should generally be cover all kind of different fights. After that point, use on cooldown and then kind of, you know, take it as it comes to you, yeah. Finally, the first sigil, use it on pool. That's where it gains all its power from, that big army burst. Second use, it depends on the length of the fight, but should generally come in 5 minutes. And if a boss fight is like 6 minutes long, you might consider delaying your army, second army, for sigil at 5 minutes. Obviously, you then need to make a choice of, you know, what am I going to do with my scars? And you might opt to get that double trinket overlap at 5 minutes. So you use scars for 30 seconds, and then when you have 20 seconds done, so you get another trinket available, you use sigil, and you get that double trinket overlap. I think that's how I would play it. Finally, I think we need to talk a little bit about legendaries, because they actually do not increase in eye level. They're going to stay at 291, whereas you can get much higher eye level gear. This means that you actually want to change the position of your legendary to go into slots that have less stats overall. We generally want to keep our Deadliest Call or Frenzy Monstrosity on the cloak, and then we want to move the Unity to the neck. We also do this partly because our Abyss rings have now changed to be the Mechagon ring set. If you guys played back in Legion, you remember that there's one ring that has like a trigger. In our case, it's going to be the trigger when you attack something one behind. And another one has an effect. In our case, it's the haste effect. And this just increases the overall budget of the rings drastically. It's like you put multiple gems on each one of them. It's very strong. What it means for us is that we're going to get a big input of haste that we need to balance with our other pieces. And generally, we do this by putting our Unity on the neck with Crisp Mastery, and also changing our Cloak Legendary from Haste Mastery for Deadliest Call into Crit Mastery. And that's generally going to create a nice balance overall. Right. I think that was everything, hopefully. I know, as I said, video is a bit late, but still hope you find it useful. Let me know down in the comments what you guys are getting with your diners and upgrades. And I personally just can't wait to upgrade my gavel to Mythic. It's going to be a lovely day. Thank you very much for watching. Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing. Hook me up on the Acros Discord if you had any questions. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much.